What's a fact you know that almost everyone is wrong about? The Mayans didn't disappear or go extinct. They still live in Central America and speak at least 24 different Mayan languages. The last Mayan city didn't fall to Spanish conquest until 1697. Robin Williams didn't kill himself because he was depressed. He killed himself because he had Lewy body dementia, a degenerative brain disease. His autopsy showed that he had one of the worst cases ever seen. His wife has confirmed that he had about 50 symptoms, and depression was one of the least intense. His best friend, Bobcat Goldthwait, has also confirmed it wasn't depression or substance abuse that caused him to commit suicide. A heart attack and cardiac arrest are not the same thing. Some severe heart attacks can lead to cardiac arrest, however there are many that experience heart attacks unknowingly and carry on their merry way. Your flight isn't delayed because the tower says so. They blame it on us, air traffic control, because if the airlines admit the blame on themselves they may have to reimburse you. Dopamine isn't the pleasure chemical. You see the misconception all the time. Someone indulges in their favorite vice and says, "Gotta get my dopamine rush." But dopamine isn't about pleasure, it's about craving. Our dopamine levels don't spike when we get something we want, they spike when something we want becomes available, and go down once we actually get the pleasurable thing. Dopamine isn't the rush of driving fast, it's the green light that tells you to go. The low man on the totem pole was actually the strongest in the Native American societies because he held up the rest of the tribe. Water isn't actually conductive. It's the impurities in the water that allows it to conduct electricity. Migraines aren't just a really bad headache. Headache is one of the 4 possible stages of migraine. You can have migraine symptoms without your head hurting. Marie Antoinette never said "let them eat cake." The first written account of this story is from 1767 and doesn't attribute the quote to her. She would have been 12 at the time, and would go on to marry Louis XVI 3 years after this quote was initially published. Not sure if it's for most people, but the people I've come across had this wrong almost always. Canberra is the capital city of Australia, not Sydney. If you don't have a will, your spouse doesn't necessarily get your stuff. But, the state doesn't take it all, either. You don't have to pay gift taxes if you make a gift of over $15,000, you just have to file a gift tax return. Revocable trusts don't change the taxation of your estate. Singers, almost universally, have a consistent tendency to sing slightly flat, not sharp. It's due primarily to lack of proper breath support and not because they have a tin ear for music. After living in Slovakia for 7.5 years, I got beyond frustrated when people would tell me that I would catch a cold from simply being in cold weather, or that air conditioning in the summer makes you sick. Or that you treat a cold with antibiotics. Or that sitting on cold concrete will give you hemorrhoids. I tried to refute all of this with actual evidence, but it fell upon deaf ears. I loved my time there, but good Lord, the old health superstitions are alive and well. That janitor is a low-class job. I'm a janitor, and let me tell you, we make good money. Amazing benefit. People treat you with so much respect. Comes the holiday, janitor gets a lot of gift from the people he cleans for. You're like a hero when there is toilet or bathroom trouble. Yeah, we make good money. I make more money than my friend who graduated university. Not only that, you have good co-workers. Nobody tells you what to do cause you pretty much have a routine. Your hair and nails don't actually keep growing after you die. Your body just loses moisture and fluids, making your body dehydrate and shrink up. This gives the illusion that your fingernails and hair appear longer. The myth of Narcissus. Most people think of it as he has fallen in love with himself, missing the distinction and nuance that he falls in love with the image of himself. This is important. If you run into any narcissist, you will notice the image they have of themselves is quite different from who they actually are. That my mother was right. I am a super smart and handsome boy with cute dimples. Edit, wasn't expecting this to blow up, thanks for the upvotes. I was a bullied and awkward kid, that didn't fit in growing up. I had a high school reading level in 2nd grade, but ADHD so bad that I graduated high school with a 2.1 GPA and had an IEP. My dimples were from getting my ass beat by 4/5 kids walking home from school. Junior high and high school wasn't easy. Fast forward almost 25 years. I am a criminal defense attorney, have 2 beautiful kids, and I occasionally comment here. I listen to my mom and never let the trolls win. Picture a hymen. If you're thinking of a sort of sheet or membrane that covers the vagina and is popped by intercourse, you're wrong. It's actually a thin piece of tissue that only partly covers the entrance to your vagina. There are some cases where it does completely cover it. This is known as an imperforate hymen, can cause some not insignificant health issues, and is very rare. It doesn't always hurt when it breaks. It's as likely to be broken by accident long before you have sex as it is to be pristine when you do, and sometimes it just disappears by itself without breaking. Either way, despite the idea that it's some sort of foolproof virginity test, whatever you define virginity as, anyway, it's still a pretty vague concept. It leaves a lot to be desired. The definition of an introvert. Not all introverts hate people and never want to socialize. Being introverted just means that social interaction is physically and mentally draining. Compared to an extrovert, who gains energy through social interaction. We introverts still like to get out and have a good time and can genuinely enjoy it. It's just going to require some downtime after. That fun fact: you eat 8 spiders in your sleep each year. If you even think about it a little bit, it makes no sense. A lot of American homes don't have an abundance of spiders, and they usually just tend to their webs or live in areas without a lot of foot traffic. They usually don't even intentionally crawl into someone's bed because it offers no prey, and spiders only view us as part of the landscape because we're so big. Spiders would also most likely be scared of sleeping people because of the vibrations caused by breathing and or snoring. A lot of people don't actually sleep with their mouth open, and if they do, they're probably snoring, which again repels spiders. Also, I know not everyone believes this, but apparently at my school it's still being taught that blood is blue until it interacts with oxygen. Blood is never blue, it's just a darker red. The reason veins are blue is because of the way light penetrates your skin. Diamonds are actually much more common than we think, and the only reason why they are rare is because the companies restrict their supply to jack up the prices. That essentially means that companies are scamming us out of our money, because they know we really can't resist those sparkly pieces of rock that are actually made of the same material as the graphite points on pencils. While serving on an airfield, I remember telling a non-aviation friend that there was a plane coming in about an hour from then. He said that was impossible, because the tower is closed. I explained to him that flights come in all the time when the towers are closed. Even commercial jets are constantly landing without the tower being open. He absolutely blew up, said I didn't know what I was talking about, and that planes would crash all the time if that were the case. How could planes land without a tower? That just makes no sense. I even got my superior officer on the phone the next day to explain it, and he still wouldn't believe it. I had 3 other people under me explain it to him and he still wouldn't believe it. I told him, dude, it's really simple to prove. The tower hours are posted. Check the last time a flight lands for the night and I guarantee it will be after that time. He did, it was, and yet he still refused to believe me. The sad fact is, people would probably riot if they found this out, because they'd think it was horribly dangerous, but it's been standard operating procedure for decades now and no one has even noticed. It hasn't caused a single crash. Believe it or not, it's actually safer to come in after hours because of the reduced traffic. This is not something that needs fixing, it's a very logical move. But I'll bet there are even people reading this that won't believe it. Unless you work in aviation, you probably don't know any of this. The pyramids weren't actually built by slaves. In fact, the people who worked on the pyramids were some of the best paid workers in the empire. It required especially skilled laborers to cut, transport and set the giant stones just right. Far more skill than was required for farming. Remember that lady who spilled hot coffee on herself and sued McDonald's? The real truth is her grandson was driving and she was the passenger and they were parked. The coffee spilled and she was covered in third-degree burns, and McDonald had air temperature warmer than the other hot coffees other places sell. The lady only wanted McDonald's to pay her medical bill and lower the coffee temperature. Despite popular belief, Van Gogh didn't eat yellow paint because he thought it would make him happy. He ate yellow paint because he was depressed and wanted to kill himself. People also think that he painted Starry Night while having a breakdown, but he painted it while in recovery from a previous suicide attempt. Starry Night showed his hopes for the world when he got out. Most of his paintings were made while he was in recovery, because he wasn't allowed in his studio while he was having a breakdown.